Okay, hello everyone. This is Sharonda, and this is my podcast as well as my YouTube channel, Spiritual Sense. Today is Thursday, which is January the 5th, and in this podcast, I go over a variety of topics in regards to the paranormal, occult, and supernatural. And so I am going to briefly go into the topic for today, but before I do so, I'd like to start off by saying that this podcast, as well as this Facebook. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm not doing Facebook. This podcast, as well as this YouTube channel, is for entertainment purposes, okay? And so, with that being said, I am going to give you a synopsis of what the topic for the day is. So, today I'm going to speak about depopulation. Now, um, I did a visual presentation a couple of months back that did not get recorded. And I do feel as though, I think that I end up recording it on my Spreaker podcast, but this is just an update because I've gotten more inclinations in regards to this depopulation thing. You know, when I would hear about things like that, I would hear it, and then I had my, as normal, natural people would do, had my doubts. And I'm going to explain to you what I feel as though depopulation is. So, with the COVID vaccination, with me being in healthcare, I had got out of the healthcare, hands-on healthcare for a couple of years because I had a surgery. And so I have been back into healthcare now for about a year and a half now. And in changing to jobs, I had to end up getting the COVID shot, oddly enough, and which was against my better wishes. But in order for me to take care of myself and my children, I decided to go ahead on with it, okay? So, with that being said, I do feel as though depopulation is real. I do feel as though it's a positive control factor, and they use. I'm just going to put a synopsis. I think it's too many people in the world for them to contain germ disease, food supply to certain individuals as such, and upkeep of um, environmental concerns, things that entail the upkeep of the population, because you have a lot of people that are dying off by the spirit, by way of spiritual apathy in certain locations. So, with that being said, I feel as though because of that, by way of the healthcare system, a lot of these things are being infiltrated in order to contain population by way of religion. So they will pick whatever agenda or whatever approach to break your spirit and to make you transition over and make you give up, break the will, break all your hope, and then in turn you will transition over. You got to realize oftentimes these demonic spirits, I would like to call a lot of them, they're very tricky and very deceptive. They'll tell you right is wrong and wrong is right. So you have to be truly true to a cause, truly called in order to recognize and understand when the enemy is trying to come against you to make you feel some type of way about yourself, to make you turn on yourself and do some things that are unfavorable to you. The enemy does not care anything about your plight. The enemy only sees numbers. The enemy doesn't see nor understand that, although I made some bad decisions in my life, I bust my back and I work hard to show myself approved to do the right thing. When you are dealing with demonic spirits, it does not see no apart from that. It only has been groomed and contained to see in its own reality. It has no concern about, you know, what you did yesterday versus today. And so this is why I felt the need to present this information out in terms of depopulation. I do feel as though depopulation has a ambiguous term specific for whatever spirit related job field that you're in. Because I think right now they're trying to obliterate not only history but identity, as well as covering up uh, personal sinful transgressions, and renew and restore a lot of individuals in this life experience. So it's the fight to the fittest. So if you're someone that has done some things in your past that you're not too shabby about, you're not too proud of, oftentimes the enemy will circumvent in your space and amplify whatever your transgressions are or your forbidden sins to make you feel some type of way, to where you end up doing some things that are unfavorable to it or to yourself. You got to recognize and realize that when you begin to take note of the biblical text. And I also like to stress that this is not a religious nor a biblical podcast. Again, this is not a religious nor a biblical podcast. I cannot argue with the next pastor, priest, prophetess, apostle, elder within the church. So let me stress that. These are my opinions. Okay? But I think in essence, these tactics are being used. The battle is for the mind to get you to believe and to get you to turn against yourself and do some things that are unfavorable to you and others. The enemy does not care one way or another. It's to do a job, and that's what it's going to do. And you're going to realize that the angel of death is a real spirit. The angel of death can come by way of a system. The angel of death can come by way of a disease, a germ. The angel of death can come by way of battles that you may have to go through, or struggles you may have to go through within your home, within your relationship, your marriage, on your job, in community disparities and things of that sort. So the angel of death comes, it's an ambiguous, broad term that tells on when there is a need for change, and by way of, in a negative connotation, it's an attack for the mind, body, and spirit. So you will begin to realize and understand about this depopulation. You know, I've been getting inclinations about depopulation for quite some time. You know, if you go back, for those who may be listening in or will be viewing in, or whatever the case may be, I did a podcast episode on my Spreaker.com entitled Dream Interpretation. Check that episode out, because it's a good episode where I mention about, you know, I got baptized at the age of 14. And, you know, after getting baptized at the age of 14, I began to have visions and dreams, and God would show me things in my mind's eye, and I was able to pick up on things. And I did have a dream, like many other people will. I had a dream, and in this dream, I was standing in, I'm assuming that I'm in, at the time, at 16, I thought I was in New York. Somehow I felt as though I was in New York. But the scenery, as I've gotten older, It was more or less California, but somehow it was a feel. I felt as though I was in New York. And I don't know how you would describe those homes that are in California, brownstones or something. I don't know, but somehow I was in one of those type of homes in the dream, and just like the Full House episode or set, one of those type houses. But somehow I was, I felt as though I was in New York. So as I'm looking out of the window in my dream, now I had this dream when I was like 16 years old, and I look. Somehow I'm up, on like the third or fourth floor in this house, and then somehow all of a sudden I'm veered down to the ground. I didn't walk down. I didn't run down. Somehow I just veered down like a, you know, kind of like the Highlander, how he used to kind of levitate down. It was more or less like that. So in this dream, it was a whole bunch of catastrophe and chaos, and what I assume it to be was doomsday. I assumed it to be doomsday because I kept hearing, like boom, boom. I kept hearing that in the dream. And I know I hadn't mentioned this before. It's kind of like the Gong show. Mentioned that before because, when I tell the tale, the recounts of what happened begin to come back to my memory. So as I looked to the left, I seen like fireballs and people were just screaming and yelling and oh my God, falling down to the ground. And it was like, oh my God, oh my God. We thought God was this way, and come to find out it's something contrary to what I was told. And they just fell down and just screamed in horror. And I'm just sitting there looking to myself, and the God that they thought they knew was not the God that truly was. So I seen like I want to say I seen like a scroll or something fall from the sky or something. I don't know. But I remember looking to my right, and when I looked to my right, I seen like this float. It was like a parade. How you have those Chinese parades with the float and the little, the little dragon or what have you within the parade and stuff. So I seen that towards the right, and on this float was this big golden box, what I assumed to be the Ark of the Covenant. And in this Ark of the Covenant, it was a spirit in that box, and they kept saying that this spirit was God. And come to find out, they thought God was this actual person, and come to find out, what come to pass was that God was everything. God was the technology. God was the cameras, the traffic light, the satellites. Everything was God. Everything that they thought was in a limited understanding and space. God was everything. The lights that permeate and comes on happen by way of God. The vision, how the bird's eye view. I had a little birdie to come twerkle here yesterday as I rearranged around to do my forefront for my tarot card on yesterday. So I'm saying all this to say, I think, in essence, that was a dream to give me inclination about how I hate to use the word narrow minded, but God was giving me inclination as a teenager, the thoughts of others and how others interpret this Bible, and I will put revelation in whom I choose and whom I will about a situation. It's a critical thinking tool and piece. So he did give me another dream when I was a child, and in this dream, I'm in the apartment complex that I grew up in as a kid, and I'm walking down the hallway, which at the end of the hall is a linen um, closet, and to the left of the apartment that we lived in is a bathroom. However, in the dream, it was transformed. So instead of, it was a linen closet there, but when I walked down to get to the left, it wasn't a bathroom like the apartment was. It was actually a lighted room. It was a white lighted room, which was a nursery. I want to say I had this dream, had to have been at about 12, or between 12 and 14 years old. I don't even think I had been baptized at this time. But anyways, as I entered this room, it was bright and white. Now the room in the dream is in the same location as the bathroom in the apartment complex that we're in. So the light is so bright, and it's a nursery. The room is a nursery. The child's bed is pushed up against the wall where the tub would be. And I see like a rocking chair that is like close to the door. And on the side of the rocking chair, there is a little small table. And you know how when you have baby showers and they have the nuts and the little mints, those little I want to say pink and green mints or whatever. So it had peanuts on one side, and then they had the little mints in another. And as I walk in, I look up, and there's this beaming of light coming down from the top corner of the room, and it's just brightness. And I remember seeing the color of chiffon, that chiffon color, which is like a it's not a mint green. It's more or less kind of like this color here. That color was in the room, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, what are you trying to tell me about this dream? What is so significant about this dream? And I somehow get a overpowering essence of my great grandma. Oddly enough, in regards to this room. So I'm saying this to say, I think this is God's way of giving us inclination about something, saying something without coming out and saying it. How one thing would tattle over to something else. It's a covert, tactful way of coming forthright and saying what it is. Depopulation, I feel, is real. I think it's a pick and choose, any, mini, mighty, mo, so to speak. So if you are anti this or anti that, then you will be marked, tagged, branded as such. And when the goose gets to going, then they will make do on that. Depopulation is real, whether you want to believe it or not. I think it is a state of mind. It is a state of mind. It revealed to me, and this is going to trip a lot of people out. It revealed to me that many times death is by way of your thoughts. Like, it's real if you give power to it. I had an episode that happened to me. I thought, okay, this is the doomsday for me. And he was giving me inclination about something, a warning, a forewarning. He mentions to me, he says, more people don't realize that the power of the mind has a lot to do with what occurs within the body. So if you don't take care of yourself, like, we know these things, but we don't know and truly understand until we are put to the test. The power of the mind is very strong and powerful. You have more control over your destiny in terms of physicality and things of the sort than you would know. You can will yourself into death. And this is something that I think was the testament or a learning tool for many individuals out there over the course of the last few years, what has occurred in terms of the COVID, to get you to properly take care of yourself and to be conscientious and aware how, when you continue to live in despair and discouragement, that it will circumvent back into your space. And you will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. You have more control over your destiny in terms of life and death than you would know. And depopulation is real because we are in a what? A spiritual warfare. And we can be inhabited by these spirits. And the angel of death is very real. So I went to the movies, I want to say some 20 plus years ago, and I seen this movie called The Mothman Prophecy. And in The Mothman Prophecy, it was based on some mythological creature that occurred in the eastbound, I say Virginia area, over a course of a couple of decades. This is God giving you inclination by way of when something is significant about a situation. But depopulation is real. You have more choice and control over your destiny than the enemy will let you on to know. Okay? So I am going to conclude this episode on spiritual sense, speaking on depopulation, the angel of death, and the things that was revealed to me. You have more control over your destiny than they will let you on to know. So if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you're more than welcome to comment below. Until then, have a safe and wonderful day. Good day.